Hello, fellow movie crusaders, and welcome to another episode of Sean's Movie Crusades. As we are now into part 4 of the Movie Crusaders ride through the Star Wars galaxy. We're done with the prequels. Hopefully, we're done with most of the hate, at least until we get to episode 7 and 8. And we are on the beloved trilogy of what do you say? What 6? Like you're gonna be hitting on Jedi? Anyway, that's for later. We're into the original trilogy, the beloved trilogy that everyone is like, don't you talk bad about the original trilogy. That's what we're on today, as we are discussing A New Hope. And with me today, like always, my Chuck Liddell Taliban wannabe, Jay Burns. Jay, how are you doing today?
Well, see, now I'm confused. Are we talking Star Wars? I thought we were talking Pokemon forever. So like I don't know why I'm here. No, I'm kidding. I'm actually really excited to talk about this. This is one of my favorite movies of all time. I can't wait to get into this and argue with you people about why you're wrong about how this movie is.
I don't know why we'd be arguing about New Hope. I feel like New Hope's universally well liked. And if you keep saying Pika Pika the entire time, only people who watch Pokemon are going to understand you. So let's try to keep that going away. Below me, we got Brian Michaels. He's back. Brian, how are you doing? It's nice to have you back. Ready to talk New Hope?
I am actually. I think this is probably the shortest video yet. It was like, yeah, good. All right, we're done. To be honest though, I enjoy talking positively about movies more than I enjoy bashing movies, and I, spoiler alert, have almost nothing bad to say about this film. So looking forward to talking about it.
All right. And new to the Movie Crusaders, he's been dying to get on this show. He's been watching us backstage for all 3 of the prequels so far. And finally, he is on the main screen. Kevin Poss. Kevin, how are you doing? Welcome to the show. Welcome to the Movie Crusaders. How you feeling tonight?
What's up, Sean? I'm doing well, and I appreciate you having me on. I have been dying to get on. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I am a big fan of the original trilogy. 4 and 5 are two of my favorite movies of all time. So I'm ready to dig into them. Don't want to bash them, but looking forward to seeing what everybody has to say about them.
All right, perfect. Quick and clean, the way I like it. All right, so let's go ahead and just jump to general thoughts before we start going deep into the film itself. Jay, like earlier, you said this is one of your favorite films of all time. What are your general thoughts of A New Hope?
Well, I won't wax rhapsodically about this. I like this movie. This is one of my favorite scores to a film. It introduces us to some of the greatest pieces of music composed that have brought generations together. The story is lacking in certain parts to me, but I think that's just Lucas's writing in general. We've gone over that quite a bit, and I can get into it later. But I really do love this movie. Yeah.
All right, Kevin, what are your thoughts of A New Hope? I mean, you kind of said it a little bit in your intro, but just go a little bit further. General thoughts of A New Hope in general.
Yeah, sure. Well, with George Lucas coming off of American Graffiti, he has, I think, a better structure, pacing with the beginning, middle, end of this story. So I'm looking to give him more props here than to criticize him. Yeah, they didn't leave a bad cliffhanger or anything. They tied it up well, and it just there are a lot of genres that this encompasses, but I think he tied it together well. So it just like Jay said, the music was great, the pacing was great, and it just introduced a lot of new stuff to cinema that we haven't seen before, and that's some stuff that I love about it.
Brian, what are your thoughts?
I think I come at this a little bit different than everybody else just because I was around when this movie first came out. I saw it in theaters multiple times, original release. I mean, it's one of the first movies I remember seeing. It's the movie that made me fall in love with movies. It's the first toys I remember playing with. And I mean, I was alive in that time, and Star Wars was everything. I mean, whether it be movies or things on TV or toys or music or T-shirts and merchandising. Because that's the first time you really saw merchandising for a movie, and boy, did you ever. So I loved it back then. But it's one of those movies that I look back on now, and whereas a lot of movies from your youth you watch now and you're like, I mean, you still like them for nostalgic reasons, but you're like, yeah, that's not a great movie. This one is one that I can still look back on and still love and appreciate, actually even more, because once you start, recognizing like the whole hero's journey, Joseph Campbell's whole thing, things like that, and I think it's actually very well written. It's the first kind of sci-fi movie that was more of an adventure without being super cheesy. Because there were sci-fi movies that were like cheesy, and then the ones that were like really deep and way too serious. And this kind of made a fun adventure, and that's kind of part of the reason I think why it just appealed to everybody.
Yeah, I agree pretty much with all three of you in general thoughts. Like, I obviously wasn't around when it was theatrically released, like Brian was, but
I'm old.
Yeah.
Get off my lawn.
Good for you.
He's a purist.
It's past my bedtime. Good night.
But
Bet you also pronounce GIF like GIF.
It's also great on bread. But yeah, it's I was around at least for when they got re-released in theaters for the special edition. So like my dad, he's a huge Star Wars guy. He had all the books, the toys and stuff like that. He collected the toys. He was incredibly upset when the books no longer were canon. But yeah, he brought me into Star Wars. Like we are a prominent Star Wars family. And so when the special editions got released in theaters and being able to sit there and watch these films the way obviously not the way they were intended because it was special editions and Lucas was messing with them, but to see them the way they're supposed to be seen in front of a big screen with a crowd, was a very proud moment for him to take me to go see those. So these movies have a special meaning in my heart, which I think these movies have special meanings in all of us. That's why we're doing these videos. But yeah, I was like Brian. I had all the toys. I would be downstairs in my basement. I would lay them all out in like one big battlefield and play, which 90% of the time, by the time I got everything set up, I didn't want to play anymore. But
it took more time to set up than it did actually play.
It did. It took more time to set up for
It's more just like making dioramas.
Exactly. It was basically making models, which I also had the models. My dad and I, we worked on the models together. So with New Hope, and I agree with Brian on what he says. Like when you watch stuff that you loved when you were younger and you watch them as an adult, they're not quite as good. Which that's going to be a show we're going to do here sometime next year. Is movies that we loved as kids that don't hold up as adults. But yes, this is one that holds up. And yes, there are pacing. I think there are pacing issues, mainly the first half of the film. Once they get off Tatooine, I think the movie really kicks into gear. It just takes a while to get off Tatooine. But yes, I love A New Hope. It's a beautiful film that literally, like Brian said, it started something. Whereas like Spielberg started summer movies with Jaws, Star Wars started something with sci-fi. Yes, there was Star Trek, but Star Wars did something that changed the landscape of fandom and merchandising, like you said, into a whole different hemisphere. And without this film, who knows how the landscape of entertainment and fandom and all that stuff would have went down. But yeah, let's go ahead and jump right in. First things first, I mean, obviously we open up to, and looking at this in terms of like seeing it for the very first time. I mean, we literally open up the film with a ship literally being chased and attacked by another ship. I mean, we got a Star Destroyer, first shot of the Star Destroyer, which Star Destroyers are massive in their own right. But then we also get the introduction to the Stormtroopers, which look, in a sense, scary. Because why are they scary this time, Jay?
Because they're Stormtroopers. All they know is killing in white uniforms. You think an average Stormtrooper knows how to install a water main? No, they're bred for one thing, and it's death.
And unlike every other Star Wars film, they could actually shoot targets in this beginning. their
these blast them off. So.
Yeah, they could actually shoot. But on top of seeing a Star Destroyer and the Stormtroopers, we didn't get introduced to two, well, if not one and one okay, beloved characters of the franchise, and that is C-3PO and R2-D2. Obviously, many of you were not happy with our description of R2-D2 in Revenge of the Sith in the last episode, where we secretly described him as a Darth Sith Lord. But yes, I see Brian rolling his eyes. But yes, we get to R2-D2 and 3PO, who Jay and I both agree is a fucking narc. But yes, we get them, and of course 3PO freaking out, doing his own deal, and R2-D2 is just being a pimp and just rolling down the hallway, not giving a care to the world. But yes, we get the introduction to them, but then of course, obviously the big introduction, one of the most cinematic characters in movie history, one of the best villains in movie history before the prequels went and ruined them, Darth Vader. Now, Jay, being someone who loves this movie, it's one of his favorite movies of all time. Coming off of first-time viewing, what was your general thoughts of the introduction to Darth Vader?
So what I really like about Darth Vader's introduction is he busts through after the stormtroopers break through that doorway, and they have that initial exchange with the rebel troops, everybody on the Tantive 4. You have this dude just head to toe decked out in a black uniform walking through white smoke, and you can automatically tell this is the bad guy. This will be your main bad guy. And the powerful voice of James Earl Jones behind that, with, I believe it was David Prowse in this movie who played the Vader stand-in. Had a really Englishy voice. It really didn't work. There's some deleted scenes and back reel where you can hear his voice, and it doesn't work. It's like Princess Leia's.
It's like if Taika Waititi did Darth Vader.
Oh, hello, new stormtrooper.
It was almost that bad.
I know. It was bad. But you've got the, as Roka would like to say, the gravitas of fucking James Earl Jones's voice in there.
Piss off, Leia.
Piss off. Hey, piss off.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. When you have someone decked out, like, first off, like I said, massive dude, tall guy, walks in decked out all in black. But to me, the first thing you hear is obviously you're like, what the hell is that? You realize that's him breathing. He's like, cool. It's almost like a shark with a fin. You hear him coming. Like, he's not, like, you hear him coming around that corner. It's Darth Vader.
James Earl Jones did something that not very many people in the world can do. And with his voice as Darth Vader, he literally created this need to, every time you're standing in front of a fan with blades on it, to talk into it to try to sound like Darth Vader.
We've all done that.
I will be 85 years old in a nursing home because my kids hate me because I'm a fucking asshole.
Talking into a fan?
Talking into a fan, and like, I'm Darth Vader. And they're like, shut up, granddad. You don't know who Darth Vader is. He's a bitch. Did you not watch the prequels? And then I'd be like, no, I think what I'd do is I'd go and grab my collapsible lightsaber and just beat the shit out of them like they're the fucking youngling.
No, you'd be like, what prequels? I have selective senility.
Brian, what were your thoughts on the introduction to Darth Vader?
It's hard. I can't describe my thoughts the first time I saw it because I was just too young when I saw it. But I mean, but watching it now, I mean, I love how this movie just throws you right into the universe. I mean, the first thing you see is the ship coming over and the other one chasing it down and swallows it up. And then the whole battle, and you don't know who these soldiers are. You don't know the good guys and bad guys. You're just watching this battle. And then when you see Darth Vader come through, again, it's just this complete unknown. It's just this dude in this kick-ass looking black outfit. We don't know it's life support. For all we know, it's just armor, some kind of weird battle suit or something. We don't know. Yeah. But he's big. He's intimidating. You can tell he has this commanding presence. I'm not, over his own people, but as well as just with his voice, just commanding performance. But I just like that they introduced him like that. There's not any, they haven't talked about him before that. No one has referred to him. It's just, boom, here's this guy. So I just love that introduction of him.
But Brian's right though. Like, I mean, I didn't get to see it, obviously, brand new. But when I first saw it, my first time, I did know who he was. But I could imagine only seeing it and not knowing who he was, and seeing this 7 foot tall, dressed in black, bad guy. You could tell he was the bad guy. When I first saw him, I already had seen the movies, and it just put this. I don't know. It just gave me this feeling of I don't know how to explain it really, other than I cheered for the villain for the first time in my life. I guess is the best way to explain it. I don't know. That's the best way that I can put it. I rooted for the villain, so I kind of feel bad about that. But
don't. Everyone thought I was a creep when I was younger, or going to be a grub, be a serial killer, because I cried when Jaws died at the end of the day. I rooted for the shark. Because
they blew up a shark, dude.
The shark,
you know who does that? Serial killers. They kill animals and shit.
The shark is not the bad guy in Jaws. The shark was literally protecting its home. The humans are the bad guys in Jaws, and I will fight that hill, and I will win that battle.
That's why I don't
hey, we're not going on an Andy Hall tangent.
Back. No, I'm saying.
No, John.
I can't really argue that.
Sean.
Yeah.
Back to subject.
But yeah, one thing, and you know what? And Brian actually makes up a good point. Up until we see Vader, we really don't know who the good guys or the bad guys are, because the stormtroopers are in white. Yes, they have helmets on, but there's no saying that those aren't the good guys. But at that point we don't know. And then once Vader shows up, like, yo, okay.
But like rules in cinematography, usually the person with the full face showing is not the bad guy.
1977, though.
Even in 1977. I mean, let's go back to Phantom of the Opera if we want to. His full face isn't showing.
We're not talking classics.
From a certain point of view, he is the bad guy.
Actually, I know Vader is. I'm talking about before Vader shows up.
No, I was talking about the Phantom of the Opera, because he has half of his face covered.
Gotcha. But yeah, so, and then immediately right after we see the introduction of Vader, we get an introduction to one of the strongest female characters in movie history, and that is with Carrie Fisher's Princess Leia. She's delivering the message that obviously starts off the entire franchise with the Obi-Wan, "You're my only hope." Obviously R2, once again, like Jay said in the last video, R2 ain't no narc. R2's a G.
R2 ain't no snitch.
Yeah, 3PO is like, "What you doing?" And R2's like, "Nothing. Just
mind your goddamn business."
Exactly.
Is R2 gonna have to, scomp link your ass? Like, shut the fuck up.
R2 be like, you
R2D2 gonna have to choke a bitch?
Yeah.
Don't worry about
it.
I can't. It's called plot armor, bitch.
Yeah, you saw nothing and you will like it. And then we immediately go back to Vader, who's literally choking out a dude and breaks his neck. Once again, epic badass move for an introduction.
Wedge Antilles' dad, right?
What?
Captain Antilles. Yeah, that he's killing, that he's choking. He goes into the wall. I swear to God, that's Captain Antilles. I
honestly had no idea, but that actually adds to that character at that point. But that's a great thing too, is that even with Leia, she gets shot at. She actually gets hit with stun, which also not something we normally see at that time of film. But just to put off her epic badassness, she goes up to Vader, and where everyone else is terrified of this guy, she's just like talking mad shit to Vader the entire time. She has no fear with Vader. She's just like going up. She's just like, "Listen to the chrome dome." And he's just like going off, and that's who we get as an introduction to her. Is someone who literally, first off, she kills a stormtrooper. She goes down fighting, and then she talks mad shit to the villain, which we don't get that normally in films. And so she is a great introduction into the Star Wars universe. Brian, what were your thoughts of Princess Leia's introduction to the film?
Okay, for this, looking at it now with everything we know now,
yeah,
I do have to refer to something in Rogue One, because
fine. I mean, we're not gonna
because your introduction to her and again, I love the introduction to her, but then when she goes and talks to Vader, and she goes, "Oh, we were on a mercy mission or whatever," and he's like, this was not a diplomatic mission. It's like, bitch, I just saw you 5 minutes ago fly away from me. Those plans. Like literally, I watched you fly away, and you're gonna try and claim that you were just some ship on some diplomatic mission? No.
Why are you lying?
You gotta try. You gotta try.
It's like, I saw you. No, you didn't.
That wasn't me. That was a different Tantive.
But so Leia starts talking smack to him for the first time in her coming and going English accent. Which, we'll forgive her for that. They were still forming the character at that point. But yeah, she was trying to put on an accent that kind of disappeared fast. But yeah, I mean, she was tough. She kind of is the damsel in distress for parts of this movie. But from this first scene right up front, you're seeing that she's tough. She's not, she's standing up to him. And so I think you knew that this was a different kind of princess.
To be honest, she's only a damsel until she gets out of the cell. Which kind of says
exactly
right.
Over.
That's what I said in certain parts of it, but
yeah, I was saying
and even then, as soon as they get her out, she's like taking over and
she knows when to play that damsel in distress. It seems like.
Exactly, Kevin. What were your thoughts of Leia's debut?
Carrying on from that, she knows when to play it and when not to. Just from my favorite quote from her is, "Darth Vader, only you could be so bold." She is just something. It's something we haven't seen from, I feel like, women at this time in cinema. So like a strong female character like that, rebutting a male villain. So that to me spoke volumes. So those are my initial thoughts on Leia. I have more thoughts, but I'll stop there.
Okay, so this is gonna be controversial to some of y'all.
Oh, here we go.
All right, hot take.
Don't worry, I've got a hot take later. So
Leia's kind of a cold-hearted bitch the first time you see her. The stormtroopers are coming in. They literally say, "Okay, there she is. Set her to stud, catch her." The dude who says "set your guns to stuns," she fucking caps, bro. The one dude who was like, "All right, let's not kill this bitch," but straight up, just like boom, right in the armor. And way to be, Empire.
I regret that.
Okay. So a little divergent here. I would just like to say that every time I see a stormtrooper die because they get shot, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of Jojo Rabbit. Are you wearing paper? Is that paper? No, it's a paper-like material. It's not a spoiler alert, dude. It's not a spoiler.
Last time you brought Jojo Rabbit, we had to edit it out because you spoiled something.
Look, the space Nazis developed paper-like armor. Okay, it's not my fault that plastisteel, as it's known to be called, is trash. But no, we do. We see a strong female character who happens to get captured. It's weird because we haven't really seen like stun effects in movies, but now every time somebody's like, set it to stun, Star Trek has the beam that comes out of the thing, and it's a beam, but Star Wars differentiated itself with the blue circles. And I was like, okay, cool. That's it's not necessarily an original concept, but the way that they executed it was original. And
the way they did it and the visual effects people always talk about, but I think that people underestimate the sound of these movies.
Yeah,
the sound effects of Ben Burtt and his whole crew, and well, of course, we skipped over the intro with John Williams, but we'll just take that as a given that everyone loves that.
Talk about the music.
Right. But yeah, but even the sound of everything, like the blasters and everything like that, it was just such a step up from everything they'd ever seen before.
Dude, Knapsack's right in his book, Why We Love Star Wars. Ben Burtt did something amazing. He forever cemented the sound of blasters in our heads, because I'm almost 30 years old. Bro, I will shoot people in a video game and I will still go, pew, 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 pew.
Honestly,
100%, it reminds me of Star Wars every time.
Even
every time.
side rant because you just did that. Even in Always Sunny in Philadelphia, the finale that you just did, they were doing laser tag, and Danny DeVito's laser tag thing's off, and he's like, "But my gun works. See? No, that's just you making that sound. No, it's not.
No, it's not.
Oh,
it's literally some yeah. Yes, but this movie did so much to cement shit culturally for multiple generations that still to this day, this is near and dear to our hearts. This is close to us, and nobody can ever take that away from us.
You see interviews with any of the actors who have been in like the prequels or in the new movies, and every one of them has some story about how they were on set using the gun going pew 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 pew, or using the lightsabers going
saber, right?
And they're all like, "We'll put the sound in and stop making the noise."
Laura Dern in an interview on the special editions or on the special features of The Last Jedi, she's like in the scene that they use when she stuns Poe. She's saying pew when she fires her gun. And I'm just like, I had to go back and watch it. And if you watch her mouth when she fires that gun, she's literally pew. Yeah. And I'm just like, yes, dude.
Like even the actors who in the movie had the same thing. That's the sound that's in our heads and what it sounds like.
And this further goes to the point that we brought up in episode 1, where it's like, why the fuck is Ewan McGregor smiling the whole first 30 minutes of the film? It's like, because they're so damn happy.
Bro, the first decade, he had to be told in the fight against Anakin to stop making lightsaber noises. But he was still making them, and he'd been in them for a decade at this point.
I love that everyone loves to shit on this franchise, which, albeit we have done in these videos. But god damn it, we all love this franchise so much. Like we would be little kids, I literally cannot wait until I eventually go to the Galaxy's Edge.
I was just about to say that.
Lose my effing mind.
Well,
I had a couple friends who just went there last week, and they just came back, and I'm just like, tell me everything. You know?
I think that's why people are so harsh on like the prequels or the one whichever chapters they don't like, because if a bad movie came out and you don't like it, people are like, whatever, that's a bad movie.
It's not like,
but if there's a franchise that you love and you feel so devoted to, and then this thing comes out, it's like, no, you're supposed to be part of this great thing and you fell short. It makes you more critical of it.
Which I also think is why the belovedness of Mandalorian is so fucking high right now, is because it is doing what we're wanting it to do, and which is why it's like it's being loved even more than it actually should be. But we're just
I agree with that.
To the negatives that we're getting actually something that's like we love, that we're like at a 50 on it right now. And we probably should be at a 10.
So here's the thing. I know that we are all now adults. We all first got into Star Wars when we were children.
We're adults by age, not by maturity.
I revert to a 4-year-old kid every time I hear the I'm sitting in front of my old big screen tube TV like this on a Saturday morning, being like, I don't know what these words mean, man, but I can't wait for this movie to start. And then fucking spaceships and laser swords, and
I'm going to tell you
forever and a day.
Brian,
I'm going to tell you why my one memory from I think the first time I saw it, one of the first times I saw this when it was in theaters. My family had like a full size van, right? And the two middle seats, it wasn't like a bench seat, it was 2 middle seats, and you could like, unlock them and they could swivel around. Yeah. My brother and I were in the 2 seats just swiveling around going, oh, that's great, kid, now don't get cocky. We're swiveling around like crazy. And I just remember that because and even to this day, that kind of thing, like when he hears the right music or in the right situation, it just, like you said, just brings you back to being a kid.
Like I said, I even with me when I had the toys, my backyard when I lived in Omaha was very kind of, we weren't in a forest, but it was very tree heavy, very very good. And so whatever I wanted to be in,
indoor.
Thank you, indoor. I would take my toys outside.
The forest made of indoor.
Indoor right here, it's right. Like, I'm perfectly fine. And then whenever I wanted to be somewhere where it was like inside an Imperial station, like a Death Star or whatever, I went to the bathroom because it was clean and it was like very.
I can't tell you how many of their guns and accessories I lost in the sandbox of Tatooine.
Right,
the sandbox.
Right. There's a Star Wars stormtrooper buried in that backyard because I think it fell in a Sarlacc pit and I never took it out.
Arguing with my friends in the cantina when you're just in the garage where your dad or your grandpa built a bar. Like, legitimately, dude, I have so many stories of this legitimately kicked off my love of science fiction. Not necessarily like the monomyth, but like my love of science fiction stems from this movie. And anywhere, my imagination was bolstered because of movies like this. Anywhere I was, I could be like, I can make a Star Wars reference. I can figure out a way to turn this in my head into a portion where I'm in a Star Wars movie. My back hallway at work, I'm walking down the hallway of an Imperial Star Destroyer with shit on the walls. You know, Star Wars permeates my life like that. I have boxes and tubes that I have to pick up. Guess what? When I have tubes I pick up at work, every goddamn time, like I said, I'm almost 30 years old. I'm fucking almost 30, and I will still make lightsaber noises. That's how much I love this fucking franchise.
There's this one movie theater that I used to go to in Omaha. It was a dollar theater, but its hallways had like these lights that I normally have lit up during my reviews.
Okay,
like hundreds of them streaming down that hallway, and they would just light up different colors. I would, the exact Jerry was going with it. I was like 20.
Punch it, Chewie!
And I'm running full speed down it because it just was like, it gave me that rush. Like, we're all big nerds. And people were like, what are you doing? It's like Star Wars. And they're just like, what? It's like, leave me alone.
Don't worry about it.
There's only 2 franchises that will make me, like Jay said, go, this and Jurassic Park.
Fair enough.
Because those are the only things that will make me feel like a kid no matter what. Like, even watching the most recent Rise of Skywalker trailer. Emotional already.
Oh, yeah.
Last Jedi, emotional. Force Awakens, emotional. It's just like, because this franchise, shit on it as much as you want, everybody, but this franchise has done something to all of us, and at least on our age range, probably not the younger kids nowadays, because they're just used to they're used to Star Wars just being around. We're not used to that. Like, this thing has taken full on control of us.
All right, so this thought just popped into my head about Star Wars. You know, there are the chapters of these movies that we don't like, right? You know, everybody, you know, a lot of people shit on the, you know, a lot of people shit on the prequels, Attack of the Clones. But here's the thing.
Phantom Menace.
Fair enough. Revenge of the Sith for everything but 12 minutes right there at the end. Yeah. But here's the thing. There are portions. I look at these movies because I got to grow up with these movies. I got to grow up with 4, 5, and 6. And then, you know, I was 9 when Phantom Menace came out. You know, I was 15 when, you know, Revenge of the Sith came out. You know, so I grew up with these movies. I think that if you look at it from like a perspective from somebody from my generation, you know, our generation, Kevin and Sean, there are portions of our life that we don't like. You know, there are things about it that we can find good in. But, you know, I think being able to grow up watching these movies and seeing stuff that we don't like about it still brings us back to our childhood. You know,
absolutely
I love 4, 5, and 6. You know, it's nostalgic. You know, I get chills when I hear that, when I read the crawls. But when I watch Attack of the Clones, I'm like, damn, dude, this really reminds me of like my first issue of Teenage Rebellion, where I'm like, I fucking hate everything. And it, you know, it still centers me there, but there are always points in every single one of these movies that I can look at that remind me of my life. And I don't think there are very many franchises out there that can do that specifically.
And that's because these movies are so spread out
in
the releases. It's not like Marvel where we're getting 3, 4 films a year, where it's like, these are great films, but just bam, 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 bam. Star Wars, it's 3, 4, 5, 10 years later that we are going through that. And just because Brian brought it up, and then we'll get back to the actual rest of the actual film, the music.
Yes.
Since Brian brought it up, the music. Yes. And Jay said at the beginning, it is one of the best soundtracks.
It is still the best movie music
yes.
of all time.
Yeah,
And not
and I
just the
brought it
main theme. Every single theme in that movie.
And I brought it up in episode 1.
Luke
It
and
was
Leia's
like,
theme from. I'm sorry, Luke and Leia's theme from that. Luke's theme, Leia's theme.
Imperial March.
The
The Imperial
Imperial
man.
March, the world's single most
my ringtone.
cloned.
Who here has not put their boss's ringtone or their parents' ringtone as the Imperial March? If you say you haven't, you're a fucking liar.
No, so
The
here's
throne room
the
procession
thing.
at the end, the award ceremony procession. I was walking into my reception at my wedding, just saying.
Dude, that's boss. That's boss.
That is awesome.
That is
So
boss.
the Imperial klaxons that go off in this movie, the high pitched was my mom's ringtone for the longest time. Just because it was the loudest ringtone I could find that was still Star Wars related, but it was a warning. You better answer your
That was my
fucking phone.
alarm. That was my alarm to wake up because I was like, "What?"
My dad, before he passed away, was the updated version of the Crate Dragon yell that Obi-Wan does here in a couple of minutes in this movie.
Right. Yeah. One last thing before we get into I don't want to get back to the actual process of the movie, but just in general thoughts, like Jay was talking about how being a kid and you were talking about how they're all spread out. I can tell you one of the biggest dilemmas of my life was deciding with my children: do I start them with 4, 5, and 6? Yes. Do I start them with 1, 2, and 3?
Or do
start
you
them with 4, 5, and 6?
Or do you machete cut it?
Well, because obviously I'm going to introduce them to Star Wars, and I did because it's such a huge part of my life, and I knew they'd love it, and they do. So I want them to love it as much as I do. So yeah, I started with 4, 5, and 6, and they went back and watched 1, 2, and 3, and they love 1, 2, and 3 way more than me. My daughter, I think, still says number 2 is her favorite, which makes me ill to my stomach. But she's also watching it when she was. I don't know how old she was.
Kid out. You got to find a new one.
But
5 years old.
But you gotta remember though, is for the kids nowadays, 4, 5, and 6 looks really dated, looks really old, and the prequels look more like today's films. So they're going to go more towards the prequels because of that. Right. Plus, in terms of episode 1, they have a little kid to follow, where in these ones they don't have that. So I can see where they go more towards.
She loves them all. Don't get me wrong. I think at one point she told me though that 2 is her favorite. I don't actually know if it still is because I don't want to ask. But
don't hit your daughter.
I don't hit her. It's more the kind of thing. It's more the kind of thing we talked about in the prequel movies where there were large parts of the prequel movies that kind of were aimed more to entertaining kids. Or there were more cartoony things in it. I mean, even there were those moments in the original trilogy, but there's a lot more things that were meant to be sillier and appeal to little kids, and they got that. I was just saying how generationally, I pass it on to my kids. I hope they'll pass it on to theirs, and So back to the movie.
Yeah. And like I said, last thing is like with the music, you can play any score from any of the films on random. And as soon as it plays, the scene that it is from will pop into my head. I know exactly when the Rebel Sultan Hoth, when they're in the Jay, name of the speeders that they wrap around the AT-ATs.
The snow speeders.
It's called snow speeder.
Snow speeders, right? Yeah. That run.
You're not gonna get a make and model from me. I'm a nerd. I'm not that big a nerd.
Yeah. But like that music, bam. I could be doing whatever, and that song will play, and in my head, I'm literally watching Star Wars in my head. That is what this score has done from John.
And it changed movie music for everything after that. Because before that, nobody cared about movie scores. The only movie music anyone cared about was like musicals. But now scores were a thing, and they were best-selling records, and they were as important to a movie and to the atmosphere of the second movie.
Yo, let's be real. John Williams set that standard going forward. And it's a shame that he hasn't been nominated as much as that he hasn't won as much as he's been nominated. Because
I think he gets taken for granted. They're like, oh, that's just another John Williams masterpiece.
I agree with that.
That's a masterpiece.
It's expected of him.
I'm sorry. No, everybody cut out for me for a second.
Oh.
No, it's a masterpiece. You're right. But some of the most influential music of our lives has been conducted by this man.
Yeah.
Whether it's the Jaws dun.
That's what I was gonna say. That was the sound. That was the score that everyone loved. because that was
the year after Star Wars, dude. As much as nobody says it's iconic anymore, because Superman.
Yeah.
Superman 78 is still, as much as I don't like that movie, the score to that movie is fantastic. Fucking Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
You know,
Indiana Jones, Close Encounters, list goes on and on.
See?
Yeah, exactly. It's John Williams, Spielberg, and George Lucas. That trifecta is our childhoods, our lives, really, when it comes
Harrison
to
Ford. You gotta throw Harrison Ford in there.
Well, I meant not actors.
Right in the middle.
I meant directors and composers. To jump ahead now, because we went so way off.
We're on Tatooine.
One last one. Is this the first movie we ever heard the Wilhelm scream? This is the first movie I ever heard the Wilhelm scream.
This is not the
Well,
first
except
movie
the original
Wilhelm
use of the Wilhelm.
been in.
What's that, Jay?
The original one is named after the Wilhelm, but
No, I'm saying this is the first movie I ever heard it in.
oh
Yeah,
Was it the
yeah,
first
this
everyone
is
else
the movie
knew?
this is the movie that like turned the Wilhelm scream into a meme.
yeah,
And,
because
like-
Spenbert's the one who dug it up and said, "Hey, I'm going to use this," and then it got used in 1,000 things since then.
Yeah, what I'm saying is this is the first movie that I ever heard it in.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying. But yeah, to jump ahead a little bit, we're gonna jump ahead a little bit more in the story. Obviously, R2-3PO, they get on the escape pod. There are no life forms on the thing. They let it go. They land on Tatooine. R2 and 3PO have a bitch fest like a married couple. They split up. They both get captured by Jawas, which I've always loved Jawas because I love the noise they make.
Yeah.
I always loved that noise. But, yeah.
Sorry.
That's a noise. But yes, they get captured, and we get the introduction to the hero that everyone, almost everyone loves, and that is Luke Skywalker.
Lube Guyballer.
Would you say Skyballer?
No, Lube Guyballer. Because every time somebody says Luke Skywalker's name, the first thing I think of is Zack and Miri make a porno. Like literally.
But yes, we get
guys.
introduced to Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker, teenager, whiny little bitch. Because I'm sorry,
Yes.
Luke Skywalker is a whiny little bitch. And
I was gonna go into Tashi Station and pick up some power converters. God almighty.
Oh my god, I can't believe I can't go hang out with my friends. Why?
I'm going to transmit my application to the academy this season. Right before harvest, but that's when I need you the most.
He totally thinks after his dad.
Oh, definitely.
Oh,
Definitely.
As a whiny
Which is why I don't know why people are like, "Oh, Kylo Ren's this menacing bad guy." He's a fucking temper tantrum throwing emo
Just
kid,
like his
just in the vein of his grandfather and his fucking uncle.
Exactly. God, he's no different. Just like everyone who defends Luke in Last Jedi. He would never do that. Bitch, yes, he would. It's like he would totally do that, which we're going to save up for episode 8. But goddamn, Luke Skywalker would totally punk out like he did. But anyway, we get introduced to Luke and Jay and who? Come on, do the voice.
Which one?
His uncle.
Oh, hi, I'm Klieg Lars. Actually, it's Owen Lars.
Owen.
I'm Owen Lars.
Hello, Lars.
Yes, we get introduced to Owen Lars, Luke Skywalker. They meet up with the Jawas. Yes.
He's too much like his father.
Yeah.
That's what I'm afraid of.
We're just gonna do the whole movie here.
They purchased 3PO and R2 after, and was it an R5 unit? Is that what blows up?
R5D4 was the first one they chose.
Yeah, R5D4, the red unit.
Owen, this one's got a bad motivator.
He's got a bad motivator.
I love that.
You're gonna be a whiny little bitch about that too.
No,
God, dude, you're making it really hard to like you.
Exactly. No, I love the one part where he says this is a bad motivator, and Owen's like, "What are you trying to pull?" On the Jawa goes, "What?"
What are you trying to pull?
It's like, I love that part. I love the Jawas. I really do. But yes, then
I love midgets.
yes. Well, R2D2 literally is a midget in a tin can, but
There is a there's a part here I wanted to bring up where C-3PO calls Luke Sir Luke when he first acquires him, I guess you could call it. And Luke just says no, just Luke. And I feel like that's maybe foreshadowing. I don't know if that was intended or not, but I just wanted to throw that out there.
Knight. No, I like that. That's a good. That's I've never actually thought about that like that.
Look at
that's a fucking fantastic idea, though, buddy.
Way to go, Kevin. Way to bring in some new shit that we didn't think about.
Fuck yeah, brother. I'll
Contributions,
give you one,
baby.
Up.
So yes, so we get
trying to get invited back. No, I'm just kidding.
We get the whole annoying, whiny Luke where he has to go clean them up because he was going to go to the Tashi station.
Power converters.
Exactly, which is one of the most cringiest lines in the movie. But which is why it's so heavily. This is basically, I think, New Hope's version of it's sand.
Yes.
There's one thing I'd like to point out here that I never really realized until after we got to like the prequels. Droids are basically treated like second-class citizens.
Oh well, yeah, totally.
Like 100%.
They are. They're machines.
The Jawas could never sell that little spider droid that they had, and then he shows up later on Jabba the Hutt's barge. We get to that. But like C-3PO is talking to Uncle Owen, and he's like, "I have no use for a protocol droid. What I need to know is if you can speak binary language of load lifters."
Oh, it's like a second language to me.
It's like a second language to me, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, he's just like, shut your mouth. Okay.
Yeah, okay, shut up. I'll take this one.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, droids are treated like second class, mainly because they're droids, like Brian said. I mean,
the Clone Wars.
Yeah. I mean, you can say the same thing about Jawas. You can say the same thing about the Tusken Raiders, Sand People. I mean, everyone on Tatooine is treated like.
But if a civilized Tusken Raider walked into a cantina, it would probably get served.
Everyone would sit their pants if a Tusken Raider walked in.
Let's remember that Tatooine had slavery.
Yeah, it did.
But you're not wrong. We didn't know that.
Droids were basically slaves without actually having any.
Because it just sounds like slavery with extra steps, to quote Rick Sanchez.
Exactly. But yes, we get Luke cleaning off 3PO and R2D2, and then of course they take off. What was R2? Was it a tracker?
Restraining bolt.
Restraining bolt. And then of course, as he does that, we see the end part of the message from Leia to Obi-Wan, which then R2, like you said, R2 a G, he ain't no narc. Basically goes, bitch, no, that's not for you.
Hey, what are you doing? Bring it back. Bring what back? Oh.
No. You don't get to see this.
All right. So as much as we shit on C-3PO for being a narc, though, we kind of got to give C-3PO. Yeah, but we got to give him props, bro. This is why R2D2 keeps him around throughout the rest of the movies.
So he can get
because C-3PO is the one. C-3PO is the one that talked Owen and Luke into fucking picking him up.
I get that, but 3PO's hit R2 like 5 times at this point in the movie. He's kicked him.
Okay, so they're Ike and Tina Turner of the Star Wars universe.
You never punched a friend, like, hey. I don't mean like across the face, but I mean the shoulder, like.
You punch your friends in the shoulder, I straight up just deck mine.
Which is why
we're
walk
around with black eyes. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, we also get the infamous blue milk.
Yes.
Which apparently I heard tastes awful at Galaxy's Edge. Yeah.
You also get epic 1970s plastoware.
Tupperware.
Which now they apparently are like not letting you take and stuff.
Fucking try to stop me. Bro, I will literally wear a vest and a billowy white shirt to Galaxy's Edge and play the role of a smuggler, bitch. Like, what are you talking about? No, I'm just a fat ass, dog. Like, walking out and like
I would wear a
cups
belt
from under my shirt.
And I'll buy like 12 Cokes
menus and
I will tell you what's basically going on from what I've heard is that basically the servers there essentially keep count of everything they put on your table. Forks, knives, glasses, whatever. And if
Has
something's
anybody tried
missing,
to
they're going to
pull
charge your card.
Has anybody tried to pull the
Let's,
mind trick on them?
let's see how much these people give a shit in a year about that.
Not
Anyway, we're getting tangent again.
yeah, sorry.
for a second glass of
But yeah, we also get the first mentioning of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Crazy old wizard Ben Kenobi.
I wonder if he's related to old Ben.
Yeah. Which even Owen calls him a wizard. Owen calls him a wizard at this point. But yeah, and then Luke's trying to say, well, maybe we should tell him, and Owen's trying to basically do whatever he can to get Luke to not look for him because obviously Owen knows what the hell's going on.
Myth, he's a wizard. He's Merlin.
How come when Luke goes into Tashi Station, nobody's like, "Hey, Luke Skywalker, I wonder if he's related to that old Shmi that used to live here." Anyway.
No, because her last name is now Lars. Was Lars?
Yeah,
but they're Skywalkers.
That's how many of those people are still alive at this point.
But I'm just saying he assumes that Ben. Oh, they're both named Kenobi. Okay. Anyway.
I don't think anyone knows Obi-Wan Kenobi in terms of Tatooine before he started living there, because he was never out in the thing.
Yeah, allegedly he's been in hiding, but how long can you really be in hiding?
We'll find that out in about a year or so.
Yeah, that's true. When
Deborah Chow's show.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yes. So of course, obviously, during the course of this, R2 says, "Fuck this shit, I'm out," and leaves to go.
Down the street, smoking indoors, sipping on blue milk and juice.
Yes, he bounces, and 3PO, I will admit, did not snitch until Luke came up to him. He could have went up going, Master Luke, R2's running away. He doesn't. But yes, so we get the land speeder. They go for a ride, and thus Luke gets punked out by a bunch of sand people bitches. It has to be saved by crazy old Ben Kenobi, which we get the amazing introduction to Alex Guinness.
Hello there.
Hello there. Well, he is me. He
says he belongs to Obi-Wan Kenobi. Do you know him? Oh, of course.
He is me.
Who
gives himself the double tap over the heart, like bitch represent, fucking recognize.
Brian, what were your thoughts of
No.
Because obviously, like I said, you saw it in theaters. What were your thoughts of Ben Kenobi when he first popped up at Alex Guinness?
Well, again, I can't tell you my original thoughts on it because I really don't remember much of when I first saw it. But I mean, I think it's one of those things that at the time when we first saw the movie, at least when I first saw the movie, you don't appreciate the character Ben Kenobi is. I mean, he first shows up, you're like, okay, it's the wise old man who's going to guide the kid. And for the most part, it was. And even, I mean, we're getting ahead of ourselves, but even in the final battle, you're like, it's like this old man, pathetic battle, and then he holds up and lets himself die. So he was just kind of like so many other, older characters in these movies where it's the old wise man who's guiding the young new trainee, whatever you want to call him.
Mm-hmm.
It's not until that's one of the things I like is the prequels kind of flesh out that character in the backstory. It is now you look at him in a whole new light when you see him. So seeing it originally is so different than watching it now.
Yeah, you're 100% right. Because I mean, in all honesty, in terms of the original trilogy, we know him as an old dude who helps start Luke on the journey, gives himself up, and dies, and then there's just kind of this nagging ghost that follows him around the rest of the trilogy. But the prequels definitely make Obi-Wan a way bigger presence in terms of the rest of the trilogy. Whereas with the prequels tend to hinder Anakin, they strengthen Obi-Wan in terms of the character as himself. Kevin, what were your thoughts of Obi-Wan when he first showed up?
Kind of going off of what Brian said. Like I said before, I already kind of knew who Obi-Wan was, but if just imagining if I didn't know, he comes across as maybe kind of like this with Beru. I mean, with with the Uncle Owen telling him he's this crazy wizard, and then you see him. He kind of does look like a crazy old dude. He's a hermit. You don't know anything about him, and they don't bother to really give us anything. And then they go on their little first quest. So my first thoughts are just it's just unknown, and I like that though, because it gives an opening to flesh out the character instead of just wondering, like, or instead of just knowing everything about him right up front. And same thing with Luke and his Luke and his relationship.
If you're wondering why I almost just started giggling, it's not like Kevin. It's because Brian just said
It's my fault. Sorry.
That's what no, I got sidetracked because I saw it too.
Brian's
Where did all these dead kids come from?
And that's what we call a callback.
Brian's the kid who's passing notes in class on everyone to giggle.
Oh my god! That's.
I did not mean to undermine Kevin, though. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
No, Jay,
I got very. So, like I said, I remember watching this movie a lot when I was younger. I burned through the triple stack edition on VHS, and legitimately, Obi-Wan Kenobi reminded me of my grandfather a lot. You know, a wizened old guy, kind of a coot. But he didn't talk about space Vietnam. So like there are some things that work and there are some things that don't. But like he always had like something to say and was always trying to point you down the right path and was trying to give you, you know, advice or, you know, make sure that you were okay. And that's what I got from Obi-Wan Kenobi. So like I've always seen that, and that's the way I always look at that character, even when Ewan McGregor plays him, except for maybe in the first one, and then that is taken over by Qui-Gon Jinn or Liam Neeson's dough. But yes.
But yeah, and so we go back to Obi-Wan's place. Obi-Wan, you know, talks about Anakin in the most vaguest way possible. We get the first mention of the word Clone Wars, but not anything in terms of what the hell that meant. But we get the introduction to the laser sword, the lightsaber. For us, first time thoughts. Jay, what was your first time thought when you saw that lightsaber for the first time?
Oh, I want one. Literally the first thought that popped into my head was, I don't know what this does. It's got a shiny color to it, and I want one.
And it makes a noise.
I've been making that noise for a majority of my life. And this is the scene that brought it to me. You know, we talk a lot about sound design, and Ben Burt did a lot with this when he took the sound of an old projector hum and kind of slowed it down to create this sound. I wanted one of them. I wanted more about the Clone Wars. You know, I wanted to know who this young Jedi was. You know, who this Sith Master was that killed, you know, Anakin Skywalker, a young Jedi named Darth Vader killed your father. And I'm just like, I want to know more about this. This is one of those things that sucks about being thrust directly into the middle of a story. But it's also one of the great things about being thrust directly into the middle of a story, because you get things that can later be expanded upon in a good way and in a bad way.
Except we had to wait 15 something years before it happened. But yes. But yeah,
22 years.
No,
from 1977 to 1999 is.
No, I'm talking about End of Jedi to Phantom.
Oh, 16 years.
Yeah. And that, Brian, what were your first thoughts on the first time? I mean, obviously, like I said, you can't remember the first time you saw it in theaters, but introduction
to the lightsaber that we're talking about.
Yeah,
because it's one of the things you saw it and you really thought it was so cool. The problem is we didn't really get to see it be cool until a little bit, at least into Empire. And then with it, got into some battles. But even then, it was a little bit clunky and slow. And I don't think it was really until the prequels, honestly, with Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Maul and some of those, you really saw kind of what you always imagine a lightsaber duel to be. But I mean, you saw the weapon; it was cool. The effects, for the time, were revolutionary. The sound, like Jay's already talked about, made everything. I cannot tell you as a kid, they didn't really sell the high quality super lightsabers they do now, so I can't tell you how many cardboard tubes and things got destroyed at my house. I mean, who hasn't taken the wrapping paper after Christmas morning, taken the tubes and just banged them against each other and stuff?
Dude, 2 weeks ago I bought new Expo markers, put them all together, and fucking made a lightsaber.
Yeah.
28 years old, 29 goddamn 29 goddamn years old because I forgot it's 2019.
I'm so terrified of getting a lightsaber because I know I'm gonna want to fight with it, and then it's gonna break, and I'm gonna be very, very sad. I'm so terrified because it's like I can't not play with this thing if I have one because I'm going to. I'm afraid I'm gonna break it.
My first thought is, "Ooh, I want one of those." My second thought is, "I'm losing fingers."
It's like when Ninja Turtles with Michelangelo. You're like, I want a nunchuck, and you start whipping yourself in the groin. He's like, if I had a lightsaber, I would be dead. I would die.
I would go out like a fucking baller, though.
Yes, you would. Kevin, what were your initial thoughts of the introduction to the lightsaber?
To go different from what these guys have already brought up. My thoughts were just like, what does this thing do? What elements is it going to bring to the story? And where can I get one? I actually did end up buying the one of the nice ones. It did break, but yeah, I also, in that same scene, Luke's playing with I think it's called a Skyhopper, and that was another toy that I wanted too.
It's the T16.
The T16, yeah, the T16, yeah.
It's the T16, and he's a grown
He's making
man,
weird. I was just about to say.
Like noises.
How old is he?
Man, he's like 16, 17.
He's 19 years old.
He's 19 at this point?
He's 19 years old.
I thought he was like 16, 17.
He's 19
well, yeah, because I remember when Empire came out, I remember them saying that Luke Skywalker was 22 and Leia was 19, and like in all of the novelizations and in the trading cards, things like that. And so they had to go back and revise that one. Like, oh wait, we forgot that we're gonna make them twins now. So
we're gonna make them twins. They're not love interests anymore.
Yeah, it's like, oh, we meant that all wrong. That was just a mistake.
Right.
Oh, this.
Doesn't mean it's not a thing. No.
Don't cross the sabers. But yeah, in terms of that,
speak for yourself. Wait, what?
Brian's out here crossing streams and shit.
Wrong franchise.
Oh, you're right. You're right. My bad.
Sabers tied up together. Bad things will happen. But yeah, we also get the introduction, not the introduction, but we finally get to see the full message that Leia left. Which is basically calling out to Obi-Wan, saying, hey, you helped my father during the Clone Wars. I need your help. Obi-Wan, you're my only hope. Which leads to the journey that we finally get with Star Wars. Obi-Wan basically just says, well, Luke, you're coming with me. He really doesn't give you the choice.
Come with me to Alderaan.
Yeah, it's like, you're coming with me. And then, like, well, I got to.
He doesn't have to try so hard, though, because Luke wants off this planet. This is just basically his excuse to finally do it.
Exactly.
Oh, but he has to act like a whiny little bitch and not go. No, I have to help my uncle. I have to help my aunt and my uncle.
Well, until he sees his, uncle,
and then, so, what's funny is that Obi-Wan totally plays on his horniness. Because he's like, I need you. She needs you. Like, and Luke's going, damn, Leia is hot. Like, he played into the horniness of a kid. Well, I mean, he's 19, but That's what got Luke to ultimately go. It's like, dude, she wants you, kind of thing, which is hilarious though. But yeah, and obviously at that point we start to go into the journey, but first we gotta head home where barbecue's cooking.
Hold on. No, we're skipping over a very important scene here.
Which part?
When they find the sand crawler that the Jawas were on, where the Imperial Stormtroopers, Imperial Stormtroopers are this precise. The only movie in the franchise where Stormtroopers are accurate.
Like, I laughed. He made that. And then it gets the whole part where Luke goes, "That must mean home." Home. Home. Like I said, barbecue. We did some barbecue cooking in terms of Owen and goddamn, we can never remember Mrs. Baru. But also before that, we get the first look at the Death Star. Because we get the whole isn't it where they do like the two-term like probe droid stabbing Leia, but then we also get Vader force choking someone for the first time.
Yes.
Because he force chokes. I can never remember all these stupid Imperial officers' names.
I forget which is which. I want to say it's Mahdi, but I'm not sure.
It's either Mahdi or Ozzel. I think it's Ozzel. I think it's Ozzel at first.
Ozzel's the one he chokes over a hologram, isn't it? I could be wrong. Anyway. I don't
know.
Anyway.
But we get the first introduction to the Force as it's being talked about. Because we get that one that we can't remember his damn name going, I don't believe in hocus pocus, and then Vader's like, bitch, taste this.
Going back, he choked that guy at the beginning, and they could have. But I'm saying they could have done that, the force choke at the beginning, and just kind of used that as, that he does that.
They need to emphasize how powerful he was, because he lifted and he crushed his neck with his hand, which is robotic. But this was.
And they had to have Obi-Wan explain what the Force is before they started.
I'm glad they saved this. Yeah, that was cool.
And we also get introduced to Tarkin for the first time.
Surrounds us.
Tarkin gets introduced for the first time also.
Not a good enough excuse for the word penetrate. I'm just saying.
So yes, Grand Moff Tarkin gets introduced, and basically he's kind of like the. Not the owner of Vader, but he's kind of like the owner, like, leave him alone. It's like, stop poking him, kind of thing.
Your sorcerer's ways haven't helped us conjure the stolen data tapes.
But we also get
I would have choked the shit out of him too. Okay, I'm just saying.
I know. We also get one of the most memorable quotes that we've used many times, which I find your lack of faith disturbing. Which that guy sells that choke pretty damn well.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then when he gets let go, he basically like head plants the table, which I thought was good. But we see already in terms of the Empire, not everything is as level-headed as it should be. Vader is looked at considerably as an outsider in terms of the Imperial men on the ship. Tarkin's like the one that actually like seems to be toe to toe with Vader, which I think was their books or comics.
So there's a lot that leads up to it, but specifically in stuff that like the newer generation would understand, Clone Wars. There is a very specific relationship that Admiral Tarkin has with Anakin Skywalker in Clone Wars. Because that's where their relation. The animated series.
I don't remember that. No.
Yeah, that's where they first meet. And he's always kind of had that I'm talking down to you tone. And he knows who Luke he in the show and in subsequent things after this, he knows that Darth Vader is Anakin Skywalker. So he's never really had to change that attitude that he's had towards him.
Tarkin's like the one that I would say Tarkin's probably the only one outside of Palpatine that actually knows that. Would you agree?
In cinematic canon, yes.
Yeah. No, you definitely in cinematic.
Within the Empire, right? So I was like, Obi-Wan.
No, I meant like in the
Okay.
As Mark Ellis would like to say, Boba Fett also knows, but we haven't met him yet. So and we don't meet him for another movie.
Yeah. But yeah, and then like I said, we go back to Tatooine, where, like I said, they're cooking barbecue. Which I also love how they laid out the skeletons in that scene. You got the one that's like face planted down with his arms up, and then you get the other one like this.
What was that?
Yeah, that was just like, oh wow, they actually okay. Like Jawa just go poof. All you find is their clothes. Either they're nude running around in the desert, or they evaporated. But with Beru and freaking Owen, they're just yes, Owen.
Owen Lars.
But yeah, and so like I said, then we finally get to Mos Eisley. Where there's so much.
Mos Eisley.
Can I bring up how not very broken up Luke seemed about them burning and stuff?
Oh, he
just kind of was like, oh, all right, let's go.
Wait, there's one scene that I'd like to. It happens right after that, and I think that we got to give it up to. I'm forgetting his name right now. Gilbert, Dan Gilbert, the DP, the director of photography.
Oh, okay.
He literally. Let's see, it's Dan Gilbert, I think. Gilbert Taylor. It is Gilbert Taylor. He gives us one of the. At the point, didn't seem like it would become one of the most iconic shots of Star Wars, but becomes one of the most iconic shots of Star Wars. The binary suns and Luke Skywalker standing, and then you get Luke's theme in the background. Like it's just a beautifully shot scene. And then we get to Mos Eisley Spaceport. It's a wretched hive. I've never seen a more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Which further goes into the mystery of this film, because how many of those aliens were like, I want to know more about that one. There's that one. There's the one that looks like it's a fucking devil with a grin.
It just looked like a Halloween costume.
Well, that's you look back at it now, especially if you ever seen the pre-special edition ones where they turned some of them into CGI. But back in the original version where everybody's in bad rubber masks, it looked like Halloween costume in half of those. But as the kid, you don't care about that. You're just in the world.
You have the little bat that's like, give me a drink.
and this is back when the only names they gave him were Hammerhead and Walrus Man. They didn't name them Panda Baba and Moma Nadon. And yes, I know that shit because I'm a nerd. But that's back. Their names were basically, hey, he's a hammerhead looking thing. So name that. Yeah, but yeah, I wanted all those toys. I wanted to play one of the first sets I owned was the Cantina playset. You playing that?
Yeah. You have the band.
Kenner toys.
Mm-hmm.
What was the band's name?
Oh crap!
It's like right here
and the modal nodes.
Yes.
Fuck.
I did this literally just drive Jay crazy.
In 5, 4.
I was just
2.
Did you
Figuring Dan and the modal nodes?
Yeah, Figuring Dan.
Figuring Dan and the modal nodes. Also, just to point out, if you don't think that Star Wars has any dirty references to it, the genre of music they play is called jizz.
It is.
It is called jizz. Jizz. Jizz.
Yes. Yeah. So we get like I said, all of us know that song. Now we're gonna get sued because we went
play that same
demonetized. Song. There goes our money. Anyway.
Yeah.
Play that same song.
And then we get the first look at Chewbacca because he's talking to Obi-Wan at the bar. At that point, we don't know who Chewie is. He's just this random.
At that point, I think of just another villain. Just
another
with the others.
Bar.
Another one of these pieces of the bar. Then we also once again go further back to Jay talking about the droids being treated as slaves. 3PO and R2 get kicked out of the bar because there's no droids allowed. And then we get the two guys I'm wanted. And, I don't like your face. I can't remember.
Dr. Evazon.
Yes.
I've
Thus,
got
we get the first introduction of.
Be careful. You'll be dead.
You'll be dead. Yes, you get our Obi-Wan being a badass because he takes arms.
Obi-Wan ain't taking no shit from nobody. That man did not get his nap that day.
Exactly. Oh, and I love how they called back to that in the prequels where he took another arm in a bar because like they said in previous versions, Obi-Wan likes to lounge around in the slums and hang out with the how did you put it, Jay?
The wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Yes, Obi-Wan likes to hang out with them. And it's like we also got blood. We get blood. We don't get blood really barely at all in this franchise. We got blood. We cut that one dude's arm off. But then obviously after they do that, we get the introduction to one of the favorite characters in Star Wars franchise, Han Solo, played by as Jay said, the one who turns the triangle into a square, Harrison Ford, which we also get him talking about.
Turns it into a heart. Just kidding.
The Han and the infamous Han shot first or Guido shot first debacle.
Yeah.
Clunky.
Yeah.
As the kids would say.
Yes. Brian, what were your thoughts on the introduction to Han Solo? Like not who he became, but just like your first thoughts when you saw Han pop up on screen.
Well, again, it's one of those things that it's different when you first see it versus now knowing everything you know. Because at the time, as far as you know, he's just another supporting character. He's the guy who's going to fly him from here to there. Now, later in the movie, he becomes this lovable rogue, but right now he's just like a driver for hire. But the introduction with him and Greedo, that's cool because you get to see his personality, and it's like, when he shoots first, and we're not going to get into that whole thing because yes, he did. But that was just a cool moment. Half of what made it cool was the fact that he just shot him. So that's the only reason I brought that up is because that was just like, hey, this is who I am. And you're dead. And so you knew he was cool, but you did not know at the time that he was going to become such an integral part of the story.
Shout out to Garth McMurray, a friend of a majority of the fan leagues that's been seen around here. I posted a Facebook status last night saying there are only 3 things that are inevitable in life: death, taxes, and Han shot first. He literally had to semantics me to death and say, well, technically Han was the only one who shot.
I've said that before too.
I would just like to respond with that still means he shot first.
Yes.
Han shot first. Thank you.
It does. Kevin, what were your thoughts on Han the first time he pops up on screen?
My first thoughts were that he was just another character that, like Brian said, was just going to be a side character. I didn't know that he was going to be who he was going to be, but he was a smooth talker and a cool cat, I guess you would call it. And the shooting scene that kind of drew me in, but yeah, those are my first thoughts. Just the way he talked and his verbiage and the conversation he has with Greedo, that kind of shows you what kind of guy he was. So the fact that he tags along or carries on with the group, it set him up to be who he turned out to be. So I think it did it well.
Yeah.
I didn't like Han Solo the first time I saw him.
I don't think you're supposed to, technically.
So I'm a blunt individual. I'll tell you something even if I don't like it. I'm not a person who tries to swindle anybody. So and I think that's the conflicting nature of what Han Solo is, because the first time you see him, he is trying to swindle Greedo into not collecting a bounty on him, and then literally seconds later, you have Obi-Wan Kenobi and Luke Skywalker sitting down, and he's, as much as everybody wants to sit here and be like, oh, it's the Nava computer in the Millennium Falcon that made the Kessel Run in less than 12 parsecs, and it's a flub on George Lucas, and I don't care what anybody says. Parsec is a unit of measurement.
We're not gonna bring up Solo and how they completely ruined the Kessel Run, but anyway.
I don't think they actually. That's the one thing I won't complain about Solo with. I don't really care about that. They created an entire movie based around the fact that George Lucas fucked up and heard the word parsec and thought that it was a unit of time, not a unit of distance. That's my issue with that. But he's trying to swindle them. I love the interactions between the two of them, though. Or the three of them, I should say. But Han Solo, I didn't like the first time I saw him on screen, and I love Harrison Ford.
Do we want to discuss the Jabba scene, or do we want to pretend we never saw it?
Let's move on, because that doesn't exist to fans. No, I'm kidding. I mean, it doesn't exist.
I will just say briefly say this, just kind of overview. The special editions, I think, except for the whole Han shot first thing and Jabba, those two little things, except for that, Star Wars: The New Hope is the one that benefited the most from the special editions, because they were able to clean up so much things as far as special effects and things like that, made it look better without completely ruining like the musical number in Jabba's Palace, things like that. So I think the special editions made some improvements there, if you can overlook those two little things on.
And basically, they do bring up Boba Fett in this film because he is in that Jabba shot.
Right, and that just felt like shoehorned in for no reason. That's the kind of thing I didn't like.
As soon as Jabba's off screen, Boba walks
in, looks at camera basically,
and then goes like, "Okay, there's your Boba Fett shot."
Yeah.
But yeah, so they go ahead, Jay.
No, it irritates me because at this point, just from a trivia standpoint, something like that irritates me, because if I get asked a question in a Star Wars match, or I get asked a question in a geek match, or I get asked a question in just a regular movie trivia format, what movie marks the first appearance of Boba Fett? The correct answer is Empire Strikes Back, when he's there with Bosk and he's there with IG-88. But because of these special editions and the additional features to it, cool. Now I have to say it's A New Hope.
Actually, no. Technically, your answer is still right. It's still Empire Strikes Back, because the special edition came after the original Empire Strikes Back.
I understand that, but
it's
the exact...
that you can still win that argument.
It's a semantics argument, but he's seen in the first one. That's my issue behind that. But outside of that, did he need to be there? Not really. Did Jabba the Hutt need to be there? Not really.
Jabba's there because Guido brings up Jabba, and so
Guido?
it's connecting who you brought.
You sound like you're saying Guido.
Yeah,
it does sound like
it sounded like you said Guido, bro.
Guido.
Okay, that's better.
Okay. Well, no, but here's the other thing. Like, if you've watched the screen tests for it, Harrison Ford, I almost said Han Ford, or Harrison Solo. Harrison Ford says, "Jabba, you're an amazing human being," and like, kind of a fucking like that's the quote right there that really kind of was like, okay, now I kind of like Han Solo. Like, I know it's a special edition sort of thing, and like the screen blurring when he steps on him on his tail over him, it disappears, looks a little funky, but the low key shade thrown, Jabba, you're an amazing human being. I was just like, okay, I didn't like you 30 seconds ago. I kind of like you now. You're growing on me like a.
Well, that's because you got Harrison Ford charisma. You can't hate Harrison Ford for too long.
Wrong.
I mean, that's why we've rarely, outside I think of one movie that goes off the top of the head, where he's actually played a villain, and even then he becomes the villain in like the last 5 minutes of the film, because he's just so charismatic. You can't hate Harrison Ford. At least not for very long. You can't. But yeah, so they get on the Millennium Falcon. First time we see the Millennium Falcon, which I mean, in terms for us, I mean, it got redigitized with special edition, which actually, like Brian said, I think helped it in that sense. They're under fire from TIE fighters, stuff like that, but we don't get the first dogfight scene just yet, because first we get to see the full power of the operational weaponry of the Death Star and the complete utter destruction of Alderaan. Which once again we get Leia basically playing it like badass bitch, talking mad shit to Tarkin. Is like, you a punk. You a punk. I ain't scared of you. But then as soon as he goes bye-bye to your planet, Leia breaks. And then she's brought back to being like Brian said, the damsel at that moment. Because that's the moment where she stops being the badass for that brief moment. Because she, like I said, she just lost her entire home planet. Do we know, Jay, in terms of story, is Bale still alive at that point, or is he dead?
He's on Alderaan.
So he is still alive at that point. Okay, so yeah, so her adoptive mother and father are alive at that point. She's lost everything at that moment. Thoughts on watching the Death Star blow up a planet for the first time? Well, actually, the only time. I don't think it blows up another planet outside of Rogue One the whole rest of the series, right?
It doesn't blow up either of the planets that it's used on in Rogue One either.
No, not that we see.
I mean,
Scarif's still around, and so is what is it, Wobani?
Well, I mean, we actually get to see fire on Jeddah.
Yeah,
no, it doesn't blow the planet up. It literally
is destroyed in that sense, doesn't it?
Well, no, that's
no, it was not at full power. It shot at it, but didn't destroy the planet.
Jeddah City that gets destroyed.
Yeah,
I
forget. Don't they even say like a quarter power or something like that?
Yeah, they do say that.
I don't remember the number,
like
but it was not.
No.
It didn't unleash it full strength to blow up the planet.
Huh.
Okay. What?
Oh, I'm just quoting director Orson Krennic.
So yeah, thoughts on the Death Star destroying Alderaan. First time we saw a planet just be utterly destroyed. Anybody?
Damn.
I honestly didn't have much reaction to that. I mean, yeah, it was kind of the scene shown to basically make the Death Star this intimidating machinery, but I'm not going to say that it blew me away, because at that point I wanted to get back more to the characters I cared about.
Which basically right after that we get to see obviously C-3PO and Chewie play chess, which we get another great line of "Let the Wookiee win." Yes, we get.
No one ever says that about a droid.
we get Luke playing with a laser ball that shoots him in the ass. We get the first legitimate discussion or description of the Force.
You don't believe in the Force, do you? You just learned about it.
Literally.
Yeah, that is true. He literally just did learn about it. That just shows how easily you could turn Luke. Because like within 15 minutes, he's a full on like just imagine if someone was like, "Have you heard of the dark side? Dark side's so much cooler than the light side." Like seriously, like you get to do all this other cool shit. Like, you get to force choke people. You can shoot
a red saber.
Yeah, you get a red saber. You get your fingers. You get anger. It's like he's so easily motivated at that point. But yeah, I mean, like Brian said, you wanted more character development. We get character development here. We get Han being kind of the guy who doesn't believe in anything except for a trusty blaster on this side.
And that's the thing that you saw that I like that you saw that both on the Empire and with the Rebellion, is that you saw that there's the Force, and everybody talks about the Force and what this can do and the Jedi Knights and all this thing, but then there's everybody else who's just like, no, nobody cares about your weird religion. We want blasters, and we don't believe in that kind of crap. So I like that it wasn't just like the good guys like the Force and the bad guys are all about machinery and artillery. It was good and bad. Basically, there aren't many Force believers out there.
And also because Obi-Wan just didn't have the right tools to check Luke's midichlorian count.
Oh yeah, he didn't have the.
You know why? Because that hadn't been invented yet.
Had to bring that
I was
up.
waiting for a reaction from Jay, and I didn't get it. I'm done. I was waiting for that to happen. There it is. I was waiting for that reaction. But yeah, so we get some more character development, but then in the process they get tracked up in the tractor beam by the Death Star. They hide in little compartments, which I still think that's probably one of the coolest things, that they can hide in the compartment. But yes, we officially are now on the Death Star, and basically one of my favorite bloopers of all time. And I love that at many times as they have redone this movie, that they've always left that scene in. The
Purposely left it in,
the amazing stormtrooper hits his head on the door.
And they pay tribute to it in Attack of the Clones.
Yes, they do. I love it. I love that they've always left that in, no matter what.
You know what's funny though is I never noticed that from the time I saw it as a kid until the special editions came out. I had seen it on home video 1,000 times between there. Now,
Didn't they
granted,
take the
this is
sound
before
out
people
for-
watching things on giant screen TVs. We're all watching on small TVs and stuff.
Oh yeah.
But I went to see the special editions in theaters. The first night of special edition, we watched it, and he donked his head, and me and my buddy, who somehow had gone, however many years without noticing it, could not stop laughing for like 5 minutes straight.
Were you one of those things where like was that ever in the original kind of thing?
I know. We went back home and looked, like it was there the whole time, and somehow we missed it.
See, that was what I always noticed it right off the bat. Because I'm one of those weird people, like I will notice a fuck up in a movie quicker than anything else. Like I will notice, like, that's not right. the first thing I noticed was the stormtrooper just go, ugh. It just now if he would have fallen, that would have been beautiful. But obviously that they would have taken it out at that point. Jay, are you one of those people that are glad that they kept that in and kept the purity of that moment?
Well, yeah. So if you look at that scene, like there are two things that happen. Like obviously he tries to adjust his helmet after he doinks himself, but he also rubs his head. Like,
the helmet.
I don't know. I find it hilarious. But no, I'm glad they kept it in, because in fiction as in reality, it's not all serious moments. It's small, it's subtle things, but not everything is, hashtag where did all them dead kids come from. Sometimes it's holy shit, I didn't duck a little bit, or the door didn't open up enough and I cracked my melon.
Or sometimes Papa Pal's vinegar strokes.
Yikes.
I mean, sometimes you just gotta have fun with it. Yeah, you gotta have fun with it. It's not all serious. We like to have fun and games here at Star Wars. But yeah, and so I mean, as we move a little bit forward, we get two separate missions going on. We got Obi-Wan going to try and shut down the was it the shield or the tractor beam?
He was shutting down the tractor beam.
Tractor beam, yeah, you're trying to shut down the tractor beam, and then we get Luke, Han, and Chewie going on the mission to try and find Leia, while 3PO and R2 just kind of stay in the control room and pretend that they're not getting caught. But yeah, so I mean, we get that going on, and then like I said, keeping it with the funny, we get that moment when Han is trying to impersonate the stormtrooper.
Yeah, everything's fine up here. No, nothing.
We're all
nothing.
fine here now. How are you?
How are you?
How are you? That's awesome.
Boring conversation anyway.
But let's be real. This is an issue that people have with like the newer generation of films. Oh, it's too jokey. There are no jokes in Star Wars until now. Are you serious?
Really?
The original one has. Do you know how many times I've literally walked away from people and over my shoulder said, "Everything's fine." Boring conversation. Anyway, I literally did it 2 days ago. I did it 2 days ago at work. Because fuck them people.
That's awesome.
What makes it even funnier is that Han's voice completely changes when he does it. He
Yeah.
tries to go like, I'm gonna talk in a
Like
nice
high voice, yeah.
Hi, how are you?
Oh no, everything's fine.
And even then, we still keep going with comedy at that point because then Luke, in terms of a funny moment, I love it when Han's like, Luke, hurry up, they're coming, and Luke's doing the hobble. Running down the hall trying to find the door, and then he opens the door. And what's the first line? A joke line. Aren't you a little
Short piece of stormtrooper?
He's like, what? Oh, right, the uniform.
Which he's an average sized guy. The stormtroopers are not tall, so what's the problem? But,
Except for the guy that hit his head.
Yeah.
he's tall.
That clone just stayed in the fucking grow tank too long.
That whole comedy.
Overcooked that one.
Yeah.
Anakin Skywalker. He got overcooked on Mustafar.
That's wise.
I'm a burn victim. I can make that joke before anybody shits on us in the comment section. I'm a burn victim. I can make that joke.
Let's put it this way: everyone who's watching these videos already know you, Jay Burns.
Fair enough.
And your last name is Burns.
Fair enough.
But
I think it was meant to be. Yeah, boring conversation.
Yeah. But yes, we get. Excuse me. We get them finally getting Leia. Of course, as soon as they pop out, they're getting shot. They're getting attacked by stormtroopers. And like we said earlier, Leia basically goes, "Bitches, I'm in charge."
Get the garbage chute, Flyboy.
Yeah, takes the blaster, shoots a hole into one of the grates. Which, first off, that grate hole was not big enough for Chewie. that was a tiny grate hole. I'm sorry. I wish Chewie could have gotten through that grate hole. But they land in the trash compactor. Which to me, this scene terrified me as a kid. Was anyone else terrified of this trash compactor scene when they were a kid? Because you had that little alien with the eye.
Dianoga.
Yeah, and then it wraps and grabs Luke, brings him under, and then they almost get fucking squished to death.
Okay, who has not been playing at the pool and then the hole? Something just moved past my leg.
Well, because if you some dick underwater pulling you under.
I could definitely see
There's
if you're
some dick underwater
claustrophobic.
touching you. You should really probably call the cops because there's some molester at your pool.
Yeah, that is very, very true. And then that's also one of it's a scary scene, but it's also one of the most annoying scenes of the movie because it's Luke's just screeching at 3PO. 3PO! Oh, where could he be? 3PO! He says that way too many times. I hate that scene.
Where could he be?
Where could he be? The detention level.
The detention level.
This whole
No, shut them all down.
This whole screeching in that is horrifically bad. And then of course they're all like celebrating, and 3PO thinks he killed them all, which I thought was great.
Oh, I killed them all.
Oh no. Yeah, all great moments. But yeah, and then of course we get the. I mean, in hindsight, because we hadn't seen the prequels, this should have been a way bigger scene. But obviously, we hadn't seen them yet. We get the showdown between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader, where they literally start talking mad shit to each other. But of course, we have no idea what any of it means in a sense. And then we get probably the most lazy, boring lightsaber fight where they just. Yes. Thoughts? I mean, we kind of already discussed it that the lightsaber fight wasn't that good, but thoughts? Anyone on what I just basically glossed over on everything?
The lightsaber fight is really okay. So, like, we can talk about how bad it looks in the context of cool. We've got lightsabers and shit, but if you go back and you watch like a Kurosawa film. Like anything, you watch The Hidden Fortress, which this is based off of, and which is alluded to when one of them mentions a hidden fortress and then gets force choked. But they are slow, deliberate strokes where they're basically playing a game of chess with each other. But you know, they're both older gentleman here.
Yeah, but Vader's a robot basically at this point. He doesn't have that problem.
I mean, he's really not though.
He's got robot.
Well, here's the thing: is Lucas has always explained it off that it's an old man against like this half robot on life support kind of thing. But that's all fine and good until you see him the day before in Rogue One slicing up a whole, row of people. But like you said, I don't think it was them trying to kill each other so much. It was just kind of it was almost just, I don't know, sizing. It didn't seem
sizing each other up. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
It didn't seem like a to the death kind of duel. And then, I mean, when Obi-Wan basically lets him kill him, which I'm sorry, even if you disappear, I don't know how the lightsaber doesn't, cut the cloth of the robe, but that's a whole other story.
Like me down now, it will become more powerful.
Yeah, he wanted to die for sure, obviously, but
I think even I haven't gotten to that part yet. Here, I'm skimming through it as we're talking. Does Vader hesitate when he does that too? Like, okay, and does he hesitate or does he just go straight for it?
I don't think he hesitated story-wise as much as it was just clunky. Clunky acting.
He's suffering from like Tim Burton '89 Batman problems. Like he has no mobility in the suit itself.
Suit's too tight. Yeah.
I was like, part of it was just like, was he hesitating because it is Obi-Wan?
I also remember the first time when you see Obi-Wan like light a saber, he's walking with it. At one point, I thought it was supposed to be like shorting out because he turned it certain ways, the light would like disappear, and I'm like, is the lightsaber not working? And we're like, no, the effects weren't perfected yet.
Well, I mean, you see that even when Luke first turns on the lightsaber on Tatooine, like it's flickering. It's not a consistent thing.
Right.
And I think that's just more either. I mean, what do kyber crystals get old? Or
no, that was just the effects of the day because they used like a reflective material and they had to go back and rotoscope it, but everything wasn't quite up to snuff yet.
Because I mean, yeah, even when he's first playing with the lightsaber, it's flickering in and out on him the entire time. But yeah, I mean, so we get Vader striking down Obi-Wan, which once again we get another Luke. No, kind of scream, and then trying to shoot at Vader, which I mean, Vader at that point, like I said, it's Vader. He charges towards the blaster. He doesn't even try to duck and cover because he's Vader. But yeah,
Luke at that point had never seen Vader, so he doesn't know what he can do.
No, I'm saying Vader is just like, bitch, keep shooting at me. I don't care.
Okay.
Vader goes straight towards it. He doesn't like Vader doesn't like try to duck and cover. Vader just like starts walking and the door shuts on him. Yeah, and then of course they get out, they get in the Falcon, and we get like the first real dogfight. Actually, no, before that, do we want to skip the incest?
Where he called
Here's the thing. Regardless of what you've seen, regardless of what you've heard, whether you've watched the fantastic movie Fanboys, where they have the argument about they were swinging 30,000 feet in the air. That's his sister. I don't think that was... George Lucas can defend this all he wants. The way the first movie is written, and this is like where a little bit of my issue with it comes from, the way this movie is written, Leia is kind of supposed to be a love interest for Luke. There wasn't no real big twist there. That didn't come until the end of the next movie. So we're literally going through this. It's not as if all three of these movies were written on the fly while they're doing this. He had this movie lifted from supposedly the Journal of the Wills, if you want to go that far back, but he didn't have Empire, and he didn't have Empire, he didn't have Return written yet. So when they decided to change these things mid-production of later movies, it makes it a little weird. I can't lie.
Brian, thoughts
on how far up to the dogfight?
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, I mean the first time you get to see like the Falcon and fighting off the fighters, chasing him down. I mean that was cool. Like I said, when I came out of that movie, we were swinging around in our van chairs, acting like we were shooting down TIE fighters and stuff. Because I mean, again, up until then, Have we ever seen a sci-fi movie really where they had that kind of dogfight? I don't think he did. I think that's one thing George Lucas really wanted to bring into these movies was he liked the old dogfighting airplanes from like the World War II and things like that. And I just really love the way they took that and set it in space, and it was fun as hell. And again, it comes down to not just Lucas, but then of course the special effects and then the sound as well.
And the most ridiculous chairs. Like I said, like how can you shoot when you're just like whipping
That
around?
is cool. Yeah, I don't know why the chair has to rotate for you to rotate the gun, and it's all machine connected.
It's so awkward as hell. It's like even
But it makes it
video
fun as hell when you go to an arcade and you get to sit in that chair and
That is pretty baller, though.
but it's awkward as hell. Kevin, your thoughts on it?
My thoughts. I don't really have anything else other than what these guys have already said. The Falcon. I mean, it was just cool. I mean, I don't know. I don't really have anything other than that.
Purple tweet. That's fine.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. So then we get to the part where they escape the dogfight. They get back to their rebel base. And we get that one moment, which I love that Family Guy did this. Kevin already knows what I'm talking about. Where they're discussing how small the is it exhaust pipe? What's it called? Exhaust port. And that guy's like, that's small. And then Luke's big dick says, "Bitch, I can shoot you all the time." I love how Family Guy did the whole like Curb Your Enthusiasm. It was like, wow, way to show me up, asshole. That was I love that moment. But yeah, I mean, honestly, like this is the part where the movie, it's like it kicks into high gear. I feel like the movie like goes super quick at this point. Like we're just like boom, boom, and the movie's fucking over. Like it goes so quick once they get off the Death Star. Because at this point, bam, we're right at the Death Star fight. Han gets his money, and he's be like, please come out. Which Luke does, the whole like guilt trip on him. Like I thought, we were close. You're just leaving me, kind of thing.
Whiny little bitch.
Yeah, a little bitch, because Luke's like, everyone's got to follow me. But yeah, and so and then we get the first introduction to Wedge, the one pilot that we never knew was going to survive and end up surviving the whole damn thing. And then of course, we get Red Leader, we get Porkins.
Don't call me Porkin.
Go Porkins. We get so many characters. What's that?
Jeb.
Yep, Jeb. I mean, we get so many characters that were nothing characters, but have lived on an infamy, like Porkins. And then of course we get one of the best dogfights. Like how Kirk mentioned in episode 3, where he loved the beginning with the dogfighting. With this one, we get trench war dogfighting because they're all in the trench the whole way through. What are you guys' thoughts on the trench run, Jay?
It's cool. I can't lie. Why did he have to turn off his targeting computer? That's one thing I've never really understood.
Because Obi-Wan was like, I don't want you to use it.
Basically,
I have a bigger problem. You need to shoot something down into this exhaust port. Why not just come at it this way and shoot instead of trying to come at it this way and drop them down?
My other question to that is, it's an exhaust port, which means it's venting upwards. Why, when he shot those proton torpedoes, did they just go, right down?
Yeah, they took like a 90-degree turn.
Yeah.
Which, if nothing else, I mean, you're in space. Even if the Death Star's putting out some gravitational force, it's gonna like go travel, not go straight down. Unless this exhaust port at some point was sucking in things, I don't know. But it's one of those things you just kind of went with as a kid. I never thought twice about it. It was just cool to watch the dogfight in the trench and stuff like that. I'm not gonna lie.
Times in the hole
and like you said, all these other characters we met, whether it be Biggs or Porkins or Wedge, of course, like you said, was going to survive all the movies. Probably in not small part because he's Obi-Wan's uncle, but. Okay, well, not the character, the actor. Yeah.
I also love that Vader had his own TIE fighter.
I do too. That's what I was gonna say.
His own special TIE fighter. It was just
TIE
like,
Advance fighter.
yeah, like you knew which one was Vader because he was a boss and he had his own curved TIE fighter. Because let's face it, TIE fighters are real shitty pieces of flying machinery. I mean, all you gotta do, like, they're very fast, but you know they're basically paper mache. I mean, we get the first shots of the X-wings. You know, X-wings looked really cool. There was no Y-wings in this battle, were there? Or they say that for Empire. That's Empire, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, we get a cool trench war. Everyone keeps getting knocked off. You get the who was it Red Leader that shot and just missed it, or was it someone else, or was it Wedge? Who shot it?
Negative. Didn't go in. Just impacted on the surface.
Yeah, was it?
That was not Wedge. That was
Red Leader.
I guess Red Leader. Yeah.
Yeah, it had to be Red Leader.
Negative. Didn't go in. Just impacted on the surface. Name of your sex tape.
But yeah, so I mean, we get the whole fight there. I will say that in terms of us going back to sound, one of my favorite sounds of the movie is when they're turning on the Death Star, and they pull it and they go. See, I did it, and Brian knew exactly where I was going with it.
It's that or the flea dropping down in Centipede.
Yeah. I also love the TIE fighter helmets. The TIE fighter
pilots, yeah.
And they're just like this, and they're twisted and stuff, and they've got the whole thing. Like, I loved all that. And then of course, you know, Vader has obviously no idea that Luke is in the X-wing, but he can tell that it's someone special because he's not able to fully, you know, get a hold of him or shoot him down or anything like that. And then of course, you know, in perfect, you know, movie fashion, you know, Han shows up right before Vader gets Luke, knocks Vader off course. How he didn't get, you know, destroyed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pod racing.
Blow this thing and go.
You're up there, kid.
Blow this thing and go home.
You know, of course, obviously, like I said, it does the crawl.
Hashtag yikes.
Crawl. There's a lot of yikes in the movie, but we still love this movie so much.
Speaking of yikes, okay, it takes like 10 seconds of movie time for the Death Star to blow up Alderaan, and when they're firing up the laser in this part, it takes 48 seconds. So just point that out.
Well, maybe it had to. Maybe Alderaan they had to clear a shot, and this one they had to clear the moon or the planet or whatever it was before they could start locking on. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Why do X-Wings have S-foils? That's another thing that's always confused me. They're called X-Wing fighters. Red Leader yells at them, lock your S-foils in attack position.
That's a good point too.
What?
What? I gotta
go. No, Red Leader. What are you saying?
No, but I mean,
man.
During this part, like everything happening so fast. I mean, your suspension of disbelief is just so.
Yeah, this is the stuff you take out after you've watched it like 10 times.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, only we're gonna pick this stuff out. I mean,
you know what? Only Sith deal in absolutes. Don't tell me that.
Here's the one thing that still pisses me off to this day about the end. So they all go back to the base. They're all celebrating. R2's fucked up.
Oh, I thought okay. I got another one.
R2's royally fucked. 3PO's like, oh my god, R2. They're like, oh, he'll be fine. Let's go celebrate. Yay. Dude.
Because he's a piece of equipment. He is not a person. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
True hero of the Star Wars galaxy.
He's a second class.
I know you guys
citizen.
have this hard on for R2. You hope he has a special port that you can use, but just
Yo! Yo, I think
he's still a droid. He's still a machine. It's a helpful one, and yes, you want to fix him, but it's not like time sensitive. He's not gonna bleed out.
But no,
right, I think y'all need to come to a compromise about that.
It's
100%. There's maybe 3 or 5 things you can find to compromise on the droid's positioning.
It still just irks me how like he's like, oh, he'll be okay. let's go walk off and drink and celebrate. Let's go tag team Leia. But it's like, I mean, but it's just like, dude, R2 literally saved your asses how many times in this movie? And you guys are just all like, yeah, fuck him.
Fuck him.
Plot armor D2? Oh, I know, right?
But yeah, that part still hurts. What part were you going to bring up?
Oh, when Luke climbs down from his jet,
I know exactly what you're talking about.
and he hugs Leia,
Carrie!
and he's Carrie. What the
I still don't think
fuck?
he says it. He's kind
He
of
did-
hey.
He definitely says Carrie. Yeah.
It's one of those things. If that's what you're listening for, it's what you're going to hear.
No, I watched the director
Danny
commentary.
situation.
I watched the director and the commentary today, and they said he accidentally said it, but yeah, I don't know why they didn't fix it though.
It's probably because it was 1977 and they were running out of film.
They're like, nobody's ever gonna play this back.
Well, you're
What
really
nobody's
right.
gonna
Except
do,
for seeing the
listen
theaters, it would play on TV maybe
True.
Christmas once a year after several years. VHS rentals wasn't a thing.
That's
So
true.
you'd only see it if it aired on TV again at some point.
Wasn't it still
Yeah.
beta back then?
I don't think there was beta yet at this time.
There
So at
wasn't.
least
Not
not at a
yet.
consumer level.
Oh
Yeah,
wow.
but it wasn't like someone was like we've said. It's like no one's expecting to go back and recheck this
Right.
multiple times. Kind
Yeah.
of.
Nobody's gonna watch this movie 100 times in the movie theater, paying $1.75 for a movie ticket to find out whether he said Gary.
Well, and also you got to think about the sound and video quality of projecting
true.
in the movie theater experience. It probably wasn't even audible.
That's right. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, because I agree. You probably wouldn't hear it in the theater, but on TV or just now with the way sound quality is,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
a
you
hell
hear
of a lot
everything.
than it was back then.
No, these are the talkies. Everybody can hear everything.
But yeah, so and then of course we get the good old medal ceremony where basically Leia gives the fuck me out to Luke.
Which again, what was funny is in that medal ceremony is like for years we could see this on TV or whatever, and it was the pan and scan cut off version. And when they came out the widescreen editions on first on VHS and later on Laserdisc and DVD and stuff. Now before the special editions, the soldiers and things standing on the sides, like the first whole section of them is cardboard cutouts, and it's painfully obvious that it's cardboard.
Yeah.
Now in the special editions, they fixed all that, and it's all real people there now. But I just remember the first time I saw it in widescreen, I'm like, the hell? How did I not notice that as a kid?
That's awesome.
There's so many of these. There's so many parts in these trilogies, mainly the first one, where you just go back and go, what? kind of thing. But yeah, we get the whole medal ceremony. That's how it ends. I mean, we basically have the same kind of ending in episode 1. But yeah, that's A New Hope. I know we kind of blitzed through like the last hour of that movie, but frankly, we spent so much time talking about the first hour that there wasn't really a whole lot to talk about. But yeah, I mean that was Star Wars: A New Hope. Kevin, closing thoughts on A New Hope.
I was gonna bring up like Chewie needs a medal. That's just my thoughts. But other closing thoughts. I think this was a solid movie. There's no doubt about that. I think it ranks just slightly below 5 in my personal pantheon, but as far as this one goes, I mean, it could have probably used a little bit of shortening in some of the parts. I guess in the first part. Now that we've talked about it, but and definitely the dialogue. Yeah, it was worse than I thought. But yeah, I mean, I like how George set everything up for the whole set of trilogies to be told, and the whole Skywalker saga, to be set up and hopefully closed up well in December.
Hashtag where's Chewie's bling.
Bingo.
Brian, final thoughts on A New Hope.
Final thoughts on it. Well, like I said, it's something you'd never seen before. It's something it really just opened up my imagination. Not only to love movies, but in the way I played with all the toys and everything like that. You didn't know at the time there was going to be more. I mean, sequels weren't even really a thing back then. Except unless you talk about like James Bond movies, things like that. They didn't make like this series part 2, this series part 3. It wasn't really something they did much. So we thought that was just an awesome movie. And of course, then you find out to make another one. You're like, holy shit, they're going to make a second Star Wars. And of course, back then you had to wait 3 years between every movie. And then who knew that after the third one, you'd have to wait another, 16 years, which now seems like nothing. When I realized that, okay, right now it's 2019, 2003 seems like 10 years ago to me at the most. But to think that you had to wait 16 years, that between Jedi and Phantom Menace seemed like 40 years. It was a lifetime. But I'm getting ahead of ourselves. As far as this movie, like I said, as far as we knew, it was the only one we were making, but I loved it, and it just changed everything for me.
I agree with you on that. I mean, like nowadays we're getting like Doctor Sleep. It's been 40 years since it came out.
80 to 19, so 39, yeah.
Yeah, 39 years since freaking fly. 39 years since it, and it's like, okay, cool. And then you're getting all this, and it's like, oh, it's been 16 years. It's like it doesn't.
Yeah,
feel
the only
like
person on this panel who was alive in 1980 is right below you.
I get that. Well, what I'm saying is that we're getting a lot of these sequels now from films that were 10, 15 plus years ago since we got the first film, and it doesn't feel like it's been 10, 15 plus years. Whereas with from Jedi to Menace, yeah, it felt like it. We were never going to get it again, and now we got it, and now we're getting more and more. But Jay, overall, final thoughts on A New Hope.
Pacing issues aside, you said we blitzed through this movie. I think that Lucas kind of blitzed through portions of this movie. So we're not doing anything but paying homage to that.
Yeah, we basically took so much time on Tatooine because he took so much time on Tatooine, and then we blitzed through Tatooine.
Exactly. We all got a chance to wax rhapsodically, like I said we would, about this movie at the very beginning. This movie burns in our collective memories as a fantastic film, regardless of the issues that we can see in it. It is there. This movie isn't just a product of its time. This isn't a movie about the zeitgeist of its time. This is a story that can be told over and over and over again. And you have to start somewhere. And I think that this was script issues, flubs, all of it taken into consideration, still one of the best intros to a franchise ever. Because it gave us so much. This movie has given us countless books, countless comics, countless TV shows, countless video games. And it all stemmed from this. This movie gets a lot of credit. I'm still not 100% sure this movie gets as much credit as it deserves. And it gets a lot. That's the thing. There are things that happen in this, and there are things that happen in this trilogy that people don't talk about, but Star Wars should be credited for. And I can't wait to show my kids, my grandkids, my nieces, and my nephews these movies. Because they mean so much to me. I want to continue to tell the story of Obi-Wan Kenobi, of Luke Skywalker, of Han Solo, of Princess Leia, and of Darth Vader. I want to share that, and a lot of franchises don't give you that. This is a generational bridge. Even if you don't like that your kids are playing fucking Fortnite, even if you don't like that your kids are playing Pokemon Go, even if you don't like the fact that your kids are playing Pokemon Go, you know what you can do? Sit them down and show them Star Wars. And guess what? I can show them a movie from fucking, 42 years ago now. My 4-year-old nephew watched this movie for the first time the other day. Loudest kid I fucking know was quiet throughout this entire movie was sucked in, and that's what movies like this do. I love movies like this. Star Wars is always in my heart.
I don't think I could say it any better than what Jay just said. So we're gonna wrap it right there. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, go and hit that like button. If you guys feel like this video is worth sharing, go ahead and hit that share button. But most importantly, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so that we get up to date with all the latest videos that pop up on Sean's Movie Crusades. And of course, don't forget to follow us on all the social media outlets you see below. Kevin, you're the newest Movie Crusader. Where can the people find you if you want to be found?
Go ahead and find me on Facebook at Kevin Poss, and I'm on Twitter at Kevin J Poss, and you can check out my Letterboxd at Kevin Poss.
The Poss man,
easy enough, right?
Basically, his name. Just type his name in, you'll find him.
Brian
Michaels. Where can people find you?
They know me by now. Just move on.
I gotta treat it just like someone hasn't seen it for the first time, Brian. Come on.
Okay, find me on Facebook or on Letterboxd under Cinema File. Otherwise, I don't really do a whole lot of social media, so that's it.
All right. And I always leave Jay to last because Jay's always got to have something new up his sleeve. Jay Burns, where can the people find you? Hopefully not harassing Jon Favreau, Kathleen Kennedy, or alt porn stars is what you said last time?
It was alt porn stars last time. This time it's alt porn star cosplayers who have decided to dress up like Jessica Nigri did the other day and decided to repost her dressed up as slutty Chewbacca. Doesn't make any sense to me, so I kind of called her out on that. That's cultural appropriation for Wookiees. But you can find me on Twitter at jburns253. You can find me on Letterboxd at jbr253, where I have like 7 movies up, and my hot takes are about 5.5 paragraphs long. And if you think that I like Superman 1978, don't look at my Letterboxd then. You can find me on Facebook at jburns. You can find me on Instagram at bargang_burns. You can find me on Snapchat at the same spot. Don't add me on Snapchat. Don't add me on Facebook. Don't add me on Instagram or Twitter, because I'm an asshole in real life. If you think that I'm sitting here and just joking around with my friends, wait until we get off stream. Jesus Christ, I'm like Bing Crosby with his children.
Oh my God. And that's what we're gonna wrap up. Good God. Coming up next, the one that everyone claims is their most beloved Star Wars film.
It's the best Star Wars movie.
Debatable. Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. Yes,
it's not debatable.
I see,
because your favorite fucking movie is Attack of the Clones. You don't get a vote.
I didn't say that was my favorite one. I just said I really.
But you fucking pined over it.
I just said it's one of them.
You fucking crowed about it so much.
I can argue for films that I love. I didn't say it was my favorite Star Wars film.
That's because R2 had a bigger part in it.
If you love it so much, why don't you marry it?
Well, that's what R2's special port is for.
Also marry sexy Chewbacca, apparently. But anyway, next episode, Empire Strikes Back. I'm sure Jay Burns will be here. We'll see about the other two. We'll see whoever pops up. But until next time, Movie Crusaders, in case we don't see you, good morning, good afternoon, and good night. And may the Force be with you.
That's interspecies erotica.